What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Talkin Football podcast. This is my second mock draft. It's NFL Mock Draft 2.0. My first mock draft video did very well, so I wanted to get at least one more out before the draft happens. This is going to be, again, no trades like it was last time. And this, I'm hoping that it will be a little bit different than it was last time because new rumors have come out about who's going where. So then I will address those in this mock draft. So without further ado, let's just get right into it. There's no point in waiting. So we're going to be every single team, obviously, and we are going to start on the clock with the Tennessee Titans. So Tennessee, nothing has changed with them. Based on what I know, I don't think anything new has come out. I believe that it's still going to be in their best interest to go with the quarterback, since I believe they're moving on from Will Levis, maybe potentially. We don't know yet. But we believe the option is Cam Ward is who they're going with. That is how it's been. That will stay constant from the last mock draft. Next pick is the Browns. Now the Browns are switching their pick. In the last mock draft, I believe they chose Travis. They chose holy cow, they chose Abdul Carter. Excuse me. But in this mock draft, based on recent rumors, it's been more apparent that they're going to select Colorado two-way player Travis Hunter. So they're going to take Hunter here and address a big need on offense and on defense to restore some help in the back end and also in the front end. Now, a report came out before I recorded this that Travis Hunter said that he'd rather quit football than play on one side of the field. So I don't know if that's going to affect Cleveland's plans. Travis Hunter did say that no team has said that they have a problem with him playing both sides. But then again, we will see. Next up is the Giants, and they are in a super interesting spot. They could go so many different ways here. And I think the best way for them to go is the man you see on the screen right there, in Abdul Carter. Now, they are having a workout with Sanders very soon. I'm not sure when relative to when I'm recording this. I don't think that's going to change their plans that much. I think it's more of if there's a player that or if there's a team that is really giving us a lot to consider, like let's say San Francisco wanted to trade up for, I don't know, let's say Travis Hunter was still there and they want to trade up for Hunter, then do we consider trading back with a opportunity to maybe grab a guy like Shedeur Sanders? I think that's what they're doing. It's more due diligence, in my opinion. I don't think they're actually going to go in that direction. So they're going to add to their front end and grab Abdul Carter, who's an absolute monster. New England is now on the clock. And again, they're in a very interesting spot here. They could go many different ways. I still think they go with Armand Membao. I think that's probably the best way for them to go because he could play in so many different spots. I'm a little concerned with Will Campbell's size, especially his arms. If he's going to be a franchise tackle, he needs to be a little bit bigger than that. And I know that's a common thing that people have been saying, but I think they still go with Membao here. I haven't heard anything about maybe like Mason Graham to this point, but I believe at this point they will go with Armand Membao at number 4. I think he's the best offensive lineman in this class, personally. Next up is the Jags. This is a very similar thing from the last mock draft. I've heard nothing new from this end. They need a defensive line badly. I don't think they're going to go T-Mac at number 5, but it's a little bit early. It wouldn't surprise me, but if I had to guess, I would say their best option would be to add a physical monster up in that front end to complement Hines Allen and Trayvon Walker. So I think they go with Mason Graham here to cap the first 5 picks. Here is where things get a little bit different. Based on what I know, the Raiders love Ashton Jeanty, and I believe that they might actually go with him over a guy like Shedeur Sanders. And I think that's another spot that's going to change here. I believe that they go with Ashton Jeanty instead of Shedeur Sanders because one, not only does it make more sense for them to go with Jeanty because they need that big playability. I don't think Sanders has great value at number 6 there either. Relative to when I made my last mock draft. Coming up, we have the Jets. This is a very similar situation as it was last time. Based on what we know, they could go many different ways. I believe I saw a report that said that the Jets liked Jahdae Barron from Texas, and that is something that I do think is reasonable. He's a great corner, but I think he's not as good as Will Johnson, who isn't where's Will Johnson? Will Johnson is number 14 on this ranking, but I do think that that is a plausible option there if they wanted to go in that direction. However, I think their offensive line has been so bad recently. There's no reason for them to not go with Will Campbell here, so that's who they go with here. They could trade up, and that wouldn't surprise me either, the Jets, because they're very aggressive, but I do think that they probably stick with a guy like Will Campbell there who can really solidify that outside and go with the player they drafted last year, who I am totally blanking on. I don't Olu Fashanu, I think they drafted last year. So that's who they go with here. The Panthers, the same thing. Now, I have heard that they are interested in trading back and that they might actually pull the trigger on something like this. But when you have a guy like T-Mac who's staring you right down in your face, there's no reason for him to not go here. Now, if T-Mac wasn't here for whatever reason, maybe the Jags might grab him. But I think that T-Mac would make the most sense here for the Panthers. Then that stays consistent with my last mock. Now, here's another big change. The Saints have just been told that Derek Carr is going to be out or pretty much out for the year. He has a lingering shoulder injury. So now you need to adjust the quarterback spot. And we know that Spencer Rattler is not going to save the Saints season, if there is any season to save to begin with. Excuse me. So they're going to go with a guy who I think would be the best option here in Shedeur Sanders. That's the best option here. Now, here comes the Bears, who took Genty in my last mock, and this is where things can also get very interesting. It says they need a running back, a defensive line, and safety. Now, I don't think Walter Nolan is going to go in the top 10. I think that's a bit ridiculous here, in my personal opinion. I'm just kind of scrolling down and seeing who they could take, and I think Hampton here is a very interesting player. I think Henderson's better than Hampton, but people have said that he could go in this spot, and I think that'd be a very interesting thing to think about here. If Genty wasn't there, I think they might pull a draft day center and go with a guy like Amari and Hampton, and I think that's what they'll do here in this mock draft. I don't think Hampton is this good. I don't think he is, if we're being real. Hampton is not a top 10 player. He's not close to it being a top 10 player, but I think with what they need in the offseason they've had, I think they'd be okay with taking a guy like Hampton at number 10. Upcoming is San Francisco, and do they need a corner or what? And it's not going to be Barron who goes here, in my opinion. I think Will Johnson fits their scheme a little bit better than Jahdae Barron, personally, because Will Johnson, I just uploaded a short on him, and definitely check that out. He's the dog. He's a top 5 prospect for me, in my opinion. I think Will Johnson fits the Niners more than Barron does, so I think they go with Will Johnson here at number 11, and that does not change. Here come the Cowboys, and they need help in a lot of different spots. They really are not that good looking at their roster. I mean, I'm sure they'll do fine this season, but they don't really move me that much as they usually have. This is a team that needs help, and they need help badly in a lot of different areas. They could easily go Mike Green. They could go Izaraku from BC. They could go Agbuka. There's a lot of different spots where they could go, and I still think relative to what they did in my first mock draft, I still think they go with Agbuka here. I don't think there's a player that fits the Cowboys' way better than Agbuka. He's a silky route runner. He's very, very smooth. The second best receiver in this draft class, personally. I think Agbuka makes the most sense here for the Dallas Cowboys. Here is where the Dolphins are on the clock, and they have a very easy pick here. And it's also helpful that Jalen Ramsey rumors have come up recently. And I think it makes a lot of sense for them to go with Jahdae Barron here. With the fact that they might end up trading a guy like Jalen Ramsey, you need someone who has that kind of flashiness in that back end, and Barron's that guy who can easily fill Ramsey's shoes with the development that the Dolphins have had in the secondary over the last few years. So that's something that can definitely happen here. Upcoming is the Colts, who have had a very good offseason, and I said that in my last one. I feel like I'm saying a lot of the same things. I had to upload a video on the Colts that has actually done pretty well for my videos, so that I thank you guys for that. And I think the Colts, there's no reason for them to not go with the same way that they did last time. You need a guy like Tyler Warren. Your offense is boring, and it's not necessarily a thing on Shane Steichen. It's very plain, and a guy like Tyler Warren can shift it up a little bit. Trick plays. He's an ultimate gadget guy. I said that in my tight end scouting reports. He can play quarterback, offensive tackle, tight end, wide receiver, running back, fullback. Anything you need him to do, he will do it. And with an offense that already has Pittman, that already has Downs, A.D. Mitchell, who I really like, and I hope that he can break out. JT, obviously, in the backfield. This is and the team that has Mo Alley Cox, I believe. I think he's still there as their top tight end. Is a team that needs something to be better. They go with Tyler Warren here to address that need. Here come the Falcons, and they're in another very interesting spot. It's definitely defense here. They've really struggled in the front seven recently, and it's a matter of who they like the most out of who's available here. Me personally, I think Mike Green is the best option. I do think that Jalen Walker is a very good option as well. And that's definitely something that could happen. Shamar Stewart, who is ranked very low on this board, I don't really know why. He is someone who could go at number 15. He could also go, I mean, I've heard Stewart could go as high as number 7 to the Jets. Smoke screen, maybe. I don't really know. But I think with what the Falcons have with Raheem Morris, they don't really need someone who's going to be an absolute freak like Trayvon Walker was coming out of college. They need someone like Mike Green who's a little bit more polished, but still has enough athleticism to get to the quarterback, which is something that they need very badly. Going to the Arizona Cardinals, and this is definitely a spot where you definitely almost have to go defensive line here. Personally, I mean, you have Walter Nolan or linebacker maybe. You have Walter Nolan here. It's that they need a guard, defensive line, or a corner. There's no one really there. I think the Cardinals are in a spot to pick best player available, and Walter Nolan's not a top 10 player in this class. He's not. I'm sorry, I don't have him ranked that high. And I think this is a spot where maybe Kenneth Grant, who would make a lot more sense value-wise, they go with Kenneth Grant here to fill up that spot in their interior offensive line. Or defensive line, excuse me. They already added Josh Sweat. They have B.J. Ojolari, who I like a lot. They have a very solid team, and Arizona is a team that could maybe sneak into the playoffs this year, and that's our next season. That shouldn't be something that should be surprising. They're a very, very solid team. Up next, we have the Bengals, and they are in a spot where they need defense, and they need defense badly. And there's no better player to do that than someone on this board. Obviously, that was executed very well. They need a guard. I think they could really use any offensive line help really at this point, but they definitely need help on the defensive side, and they need a defensive line. They need a linebacker. I think edge rusher should be a need here too, because you have no idea what's going to happen with Trey Hendrickson at this point. I'm pretty sure he wants to stay, but it's almost like he wants to go because of the contract he's on. So I think if I'm the Bengals, I'm looking at Walker or Pierce to kind of make sure you fill that need that you have. And I think Walker's a little bit better, but I don't know if he necessarily fits what they want to do. I do think that he's probably the best option here. So I think the Bengals go with Jalen Walker there. Give them a little bit of like a new identity almost defensively, because this is not something that they usually have. They usually have someone more like a Trey Hendrickson, like who's almost like Hayden Hutchinson. You know what I'm saying? So just kind of spewing here, but I think that's what they need. They need someone like a Jalen Walker who's an athletic freak coming off the edge. Coming up is Seattle. They definitely need help. Offensive line, definitely, but it's too early for Gray Zabel. But I think ranked 23, James Pierce, who was actually ranked number 1 earlier. He's very similar to Kayvon Thibodeau, I think. You can definitely make that comparison. They're both players who had super high hopes, and then they were good, but not great. Pierce was the number 1 player, and then all of a sudden he fell all the way down to like the mid-late first round. I think the Seahawks is a perfect fit here for him. And they're trying to build that identity that they've been consistently growing recently. So that's definitely someone who can go here to the Seattle Seahawks. Next up, we have the Bucks, and someone who is. I mean, I'm just kind of looking down here. I mean, you have a lot of good players who I don't necessarily agree with these rankings. I don't think they're that great personally. Shamar Stewart is not the 33rd best player in this draft class. He's much higher than that. I don't know why he's so low here. And he's someone who could definitely complement Vita Vea very well. And I think Tampa Bay is a team that is just built in the trenches. It's just the way they have been. And I think if they could add Shamar Stewart to complement Vita Vea, I think that's probably the best move. So I think to go with based on this board, it would be a draft day shocker, but I think Shamar Stewart makes the most sense here for a team like Tampa Bay. Next up is the Broncos, and they're in a very interesting spot. They definitely need, and I'm pretty sure this is similar to what I did in the last draft. They need a deep threat. Okay. And they have a couple of guys who are good, but it's a rotation. It's not someone like Sutton is a very good receiver. I like Sutton a lot. And then after that, I'm just trying to think of who else they have. They have oh my gosh, what's his name? They have Devon Vele. They have other receivers who I just can't think of right now. But that's exactly my point. You need guys who, they Marvin Mims, but he's not super consistent. And I think if they can maybe add Matthew Golden to that receiver room, that could really give not Drew Lock. That could really give Bo Nix a lot of weapons to play with there. Coming up as the Steelers, they are in a very, very, very weird spot. I mean, Aaron Rodgers has not gone to the Steelers yet when I'm recording this. You got to address that need. You don't have a quarterback right now, and there's only really one quarterback who would make sense here. And wow, Jackson Dart's really low on this board. It's got to be Jackson Dart. There's no one else for them to go with at this point. And I wouldn't be surprised maybe if they go with an edge rusher because of the TJ Watt rumors, but I don't think there's anyone that's really that good. And it's given that the fact that you haven't signed a guy like Aaron Rodgers yet, I don't know what the holdup is there, why he's holding out for so long. But Jackson Dart, you got to take him here. You don't have another choice, and it's really unfortunate that Rodgers is waiting this long because it's putting the Steelers in a pickle where you have to take a quarterback in case you can't land Aaron Rodgers there. So that's really annoying. Next up, we have the Los Angeles Chargers, and they have a couple of options. They have Luther Burden on the board. They do need a defensive line help. Interior, Walter Nolan's still on the board here. But I think there's only one guy, and it's the same guy who I think they took in the last mock draft that I made, is Colston Loveland. This dude is basically a receiver, and I would like to see him be able to block a little bit better, but if he goes to the Chargers, he doesn't necessarily need to have that kind of blocking ability that some teams would like him to have. He's more, he's going to be able to be a little bit more vertical with the Chargers, and I think that's why he would make sense there for them. Coming up, we have the Green Bay Packers, and they have a couple of different needs here. They could go a few different ways. We don't really know what they're doing with Jair Alexander yet. I believe he's staying at this point, but still the uncertainty there is a little interesting. We don't really know yet. And I think they definitely need an edge rusher based on these needs. There's not really a wide receiver. I mean, I don't think Burden would make sense. I don't think he fits with the Packers. I think Michael Williams does. So I think here they go with a guy like Michael Williams. He's the best edge rusher left, in my opinion. I don't think he's as good as Izaraku Izaraku. Sorry, and it was same time as last time. I haven't gotten any better at saying that name. Next up, we have the Minnesota Vikings. They're in a very interesting spot here. I feel like I'm saying that for a lot of teams, but this is a team that needs help on the defensive end in the back end rather. Malachi Starks is staring you right down the face. He is the best remaining prospect on this board. It's got to be Starks here. That's the same as it was in the last draft. Now, that 24 is a very interesting pick. They could definitely end up trading back rather. They could definitely trade back here, but if Starks is there, I think you got to take him. There's really no reason to not take him there personally. So I think that's what they do there if you are the Minnesota Vikings. Next up, you have the Texans, and this is between three players. It's Burden, Simmons, and Banks. And given that they just traded for Kirk, they have Nico Collins. We don't really know what's going on with Tank Dell yet, but I think wide receiver-wise, they're okay. They have Xavier Hutchinson, who I'm a big fan of. I think he's a very good player. I don't think they necessarily need Luther Burden, and this is a draft that has good receivers down the board. You need offensive line help. Now, you saw a stat. Mahomes in the Super Bowl was under pressure. I don't know if it's necessarily the pressure rate that he was under, but that pressure rate was better than what CJ Stroud deals with in a normal game, in a normal regular season game. So you got to go with a tackle, and you have good options here. Do you go with Simmons, who has the Ohio State connection with CJ Stroud, or do you go with Banks, who has the Texas connection? I think Simmons would make a little bit more sense here, given that he can play both the guard and the tackle spot. Now, Simmons has fallen down the board a little bit. I don't think he's going to go that late, but or I guess I do if I'm making this mock draft, but that is something that could happen. Next up was the Rams, and I think they're going BPA here, and they definitely need some help in the linebacker spot. They weren't great, and guess what? You have the best linebacker in this draft class. Jahad Campbell is staring you right down the face. You got to go with Jahad Campbell here, to the Rams. There, I think that would definitely make the most sense if you are the Rams. And so, compared to my last mock draft, Campbell fell significantly. I believe he went to the Falcons in my first mock draft. Well, he was in the 10s in the first mock draft that I made. This one, he falls down to 26. Next up is the Ravens. They need an edge rusher. They need guards. I don't think there's a better player to go with here than Izuruku. I don't think Nick Skirton is that good. I think the edge rush from Boston College makes a lot more sense here for the Ravens, and he fits their defensive way. Next up is the Lions. They have they need. I don't think they They don't have a need a receiver. They have Amon-Ra. They have J-Mo. They have Tim Patrick, who's found a second life there after he was with the Broncos to begin his career. They need a guard, an edge rusher, and a linebacker. So it's really I think that's more of a precaution in case and Hutchinson doesn't come back. But I mean, I'm looking down this board. Well, this is kind of late, so I don't really know if that's what they need to do. I mean, I don't think you need a receiver though. Like that's kind of where I'm kind of stumped here personally. Gray Zabel, I think he's more of a guard than anything else. So if I would rather him be a guard, and I think he would make sense. And he's definitely, I think anyone from NDSU fits with what Dan Campbell wants. So I think Gray Zabel would make sense here for the Lions to make their offensive line a little bit better. Next up, you have the Washington Commanders. They need a running back, a guard, edge rusher, and a corner. And there aren't really a lot of. I mean, these are a lot of second round guys who are left. I mean, Kelvin Banks is not. I don't think he's going to drop this far. Maybe he might in real life. It kind of depends. But in this mock draft, he does fall. There's no one. I think Trey Amos has gone up he's gone up a lot recently, and I think he's a really solid player here. Personally, if I'm the Commanders, I think Trey Amos I'd go with here over Ravel. And now you go to the Bills. They need an edge rusher. I don't think they're going to go with any of these guys. I think we go back-to-back corners here, and I think they go with Siobhan Ravel out of ECU. So back-to-back corners there. I think Amos makes more sense for Washington, and Ravel makes more sense for the Bills. Ravel went to the Bills in my last mock draft, if I remember right. Now, the Chiefs, you cannot make an easier selection here if you're Kansas City. Obviously, it's going to be Kelvin Banks. I mean, this dude makes so much sense here. They signed San Francisco's backup offensive tackle for $15 million a year during the early stages of free agency, which I don't remember why. I don't really know why why the Chiefs would give him that much. It doesn't really make a lot of sense, but it is what it is. Next up, you have the Eagles. They need a good draft because they didn't have a great free agency. You have a lot of different players you could go with here. You need a guard, or that's what it says they need. They definitely could use some help in certain areas. Mekhi Becton went to the Chargers, so you can probably add a guard there. I don't know if they necessarily need a receiver super badly, but they could maybe use one because I don't think Dotson was as good as he was supposed to be. Luther Burden is right there. I don't think there's a better player on the board other than Luther Burden. So I think Burden goes to the Eagles there in what would be a draft day fall, I'm pretty sure, because I don't think he fell that far in my first mock draft. So that is, I'm going to do a recap once the recap loads. And once that happens, then that'll be that. I'll go through each pick and just so you guys know, and that will pretty much be the end of the video. We're just waiting for it to load. So this is going to be most likely my last mock draft. I mean, the draft I'm probably going to upload this within the next few days of me recording this. So it's probably going to be my last mock draft. I don't think there's going to be enough. Or new rumors for me to make a new mock draft rather. So this is the mock draft here. We have Ward to the Titans, Hunter to the Browns. We got Carter to the Giants. Membao still goes to the Patriots. Same thing with Graham to the Jags. Genty now goes to the Raiders. Campbell, McMillan are still with our original teams. Sanders now goes to the Saints. Hampton goes to the Bears. Johnson and Egbuka still go to their original teams from mock draft 1.0. Jahdae Barron goes to the Dolphins. Warren and Warren goes to the Colts, Green to the Falcons, and Grant to the Cardinals to wrap up the first half of the first round. Second half of the first round starts with Jalen Walker to the Bengals, Pierce to the Seahawks, Stewart to the Bucks, and then so it's 3 straight edge rushers really, or it's 5 straight defensive linemen, which is kind of nuts there. Matthew Golden goes to the Broncos. Dart goes to the Steelers. Now, this might change depending on what happens with Aaron Rodgers. I think if Aaron Rodgers gets signed at some point, whenever that'll be, I don't think Dart goes here. But out of necessity, I think there's no reason for them to not go with Jackson Dart there. Loveland still goes to the Chargers. Williams, back-to-back Georgia players here. Williams to the Packers. Starks to the Vikings. Simmons will stay with the, or I don't know if Simmons will stay. Simmons will go to the Texans. I think I had Burden going to the Texans in my last draft. Campbell goes to the Rams. Izaraku will go to the Ravens still. Zabel will go to the Lions. Amos now into the first round to Washington. Ravel still with the Bills. The Chiefs shore up their offensive line with Kelvin Banks. And then the Eagles finish off the first round with Luther Burden, who would be an absolute draft day steal if they were able to finish that off, which would be absolutely nuts. So that's how we're going to end this episode. Be on the lookout for shorts, really. That's all I can really say to this point. It's pretty much going to be shorts from here on out. Maybe one more video before the draft comes out, or before the draft starts, rather. But definitely look out on my shorts page. I uploaded a Will Johnson short. I'm probably going to do a couple more of them, most likely. And yeah, this is Talking Football, and that's what I say about that.